just wanted to go over some macro thoughts with you. And just first off, I mean, macros and VBA or Visual Basic has been part of Excel since 1995. Now, in 1999, there was something called the Melissa virus that got passed around from computer to computer, and was a bit of a problem in that it just kind of auto ran itself and got a lot of people worried. And we'll talk in a little bit about the trust center in Excel and how that came to light. But again, macros are something that you want to be a little bit careful of. But if you've created it yourself or you've gotten it from a trusted party, a friend, a coworker, and you know that they haven't loaded a virus into that, it really should not be a problem and not a reason to stop using Excel or macros for that matter. Just some other thoughts is, macros, you really have to be concerned about how it works on different data. A lot of people will create a macro and will immediately then try to reuse that macro on another spreadsheet or in some other fashion and get very disgruntled because it just doesn't work. And there's something about the fact that although it's working great on this one spreadsheet, it's just not working on the other one. And we're going to talk a bit about something called relative references, and we'll probably say it multiple times on these recordings, but you got to make sure that that's set to on, and therefore also choose your keystrokes wisely. I mean, if you're moving down or clicking with your mouse on a particular cell within Excel, that works, but actually using things like your end arrow key and shift end and then your arrow key will bring you right to the end of that data, regardless if it's 10 row or 10 column or sorry 10 rows in one column, or if it's 100 rows. So is it going to go down to that 10th cell or it's going to go down to the 100th cell? It's all really dependent upon the keystrokes that you're using. And ask for help as well. There are some help that we're going to talk about just in a second here. But with that said, I find that Excel has made it a lot easier. And as we look at some things within Excel and out on the web, I want to show you right now. We're going to talk just a little bit here about the Trust Center and how Excel's made it easier, and also how to ask for help. From a help point of view, I want to note that Mr. Excel and Tracy from Mr. Excel will be talking with us today, and we greatly appreciate her coming to help out. And in taking a look, Bill Jelen, Mr. Excel, and Tracy working with him has a variety of things that you can purchase and also learn from, and there's a lot of free stuff too, so I don't want to just note at the purchase stuff. While there is a store and there's consulting services, and you too can work with Tracy, what we find is that the actual message board you'll find will show up when you go into even Google and start Googling a question. A lot of times you'll be brought right to Bill's website, MrExcel.com, because there is somewhere on here he's noted how many thousands of answers they have out here. It's some crazy number. So we have 3 million posts, 217,000 members. So it's something where if you have a question, it's probably answered out on the message board somewhere. And in addition to that, there are a variety of books and other newsletters and seminars and that sort of thing. I'm just scrolling down here to show you the wealth of knowledge that Bill provides. I personally like some of his YouTube videos as well as his podcasts, which you can get, and I'm just looking over here on the right where there's a lot here that you can just grab and learn from as well. So, from a help point of view, I have to note MrExcel.com, and do thank Tracy again for coming today to help us out from Mr. Excel. Excel has gotten a lot better and a lot easier, as much as people have their 2 cents about how the ribbon works in Excel. In a lot of ways, the ribbon really is useful. And I mean, just looking around at how much more you're able to see in one place versus how we used to do things, and just minimizing the ribbon here, if I just go over here and say minimize the ribbon. This was kind of the old days, right? And everything you had to go down to some menu, and instead of it being shown in this way, you had to kind of go to some very difficult menu to find things. The ribbon does put a lot of stuff here, and why a lot of people, for example, if I want to sort things from A to Z, I could make a macro button for that. Or I could just hit the A to Z button, which is right here now. And I mean, you have to learn where some of this stuff is. We get that. But at the same time, it really makes it a lot easier that we have this ribbon now. So as I think over time, people will learn to love the ribbon, and probably why macros haven't been, as much used recently, even in that people have just kind of gone to the ribbon and taken a lot of the features of Excel. But what I find with macro development, and what we'll talk about in the uses or different types of macros that you can run, that you'll find that macros are more specific for you and things that within your day to day that you'd like to do. So instead of just being able to sort something A to Z, a macro would be used to import a data file with a certain number of columns and put them in this place and make sure it's formatted a certain way, and et cetera, et cetera. So again, that's really how Excel has gotten a lot easier through the ribbon, and why macros sometimes aren't used. But one thing we want to really note with macros, and just going to this Office button first, is you have to go to your Excel options and take a look at your Trust Center. And this is a new feature. Again, Melissa virus was a real concern. But if you go to your Trust Center settings, you have a variety of settings here, and one thing would be the macro settings. Now, what I tend to do is I tend to disable all macros with notifications, so it's going to disable it, let me know. I then have the right to enable it, and we'll show some examples of this later. But it depends what your security policy is. I would say disabling all macros without notification may not be the best, because you just don't even know there's a macro in there. And enabling all macros is definitely, in my opinion, not a good idea, because now you're really kind of opening yourself up for the Melissa virus to just take over your computer if you open up an Excel document and it has a macro in there. So definitely wanted to show you the macro settings. This is the one I pick. Definitely check with your security people and make sure that you're picking the right option for you. But that seems to be a very functional way of using Excel. So just some key macro uses to go over, and we'll be doing a lot of these today. I find that just formatting data itself is very useful, and something I do over and over again. Adding totals and formulas to columns, and even though we'll talk about adding totals today, you can easily just kind of mouse click down one and then add a formula such as a percentage of total, or something else. And so it is easy to start adding not only a sum but other formulas pretty quickly. Importing data files, especially if you have a certain set of data that you get all the time, never changes, it's so much better to put that into a macro, push a button, and have it imported every time the same way. An audit thing, adding tick marks, I do find is something that is very useful. And moving data around spreadsheets as well can be a very useful thing. And again, something where if over and over again you need to have this step done, it's so much easier just to have a quick macro that you can run and just kind of mouse click down a particular spreadsheet, and it'll just very, very quickly move all your data around for you. Bottom line is, anything you repetitively do over and over again, that it's a lot easier just to push a button for, or a shortcut key in macro language, is something that you really should be putting into a macro as opposed to doing it manually. When opening Excel, you're going to want to consider setting up the Excel window in a way where it's going to be a lot easier for you to run your macros. I mean, you can go to things like view, macros, and provide get this information, but there's a better way. For one thing, if you just select your Start button, Office button,
and go to your Excel options, you can first off select the Show Developer tab in Ribbon. That is going to provide an entire new Ribbon tab that right now, watch here, is not there. And like magic, it is now here. And the Developer tab provides you the ability to click in between Visual Basic, which showed up on my other screen, so I'll just kind of show that to you. And also, let me just close that. Also to see any macros that you might have. You can see within this workbook, we don't have any right now, but we'll be making a lot in the next few minutes here. And a lot of the features that we've been talking about, such as, or will be talking about, such as relative references and recording macro, are all available to you on this tab. So that's kind of a good first step. The second thing that you're going to want to do is just right click on the bottom of your I guess a toolbar here, and the customized status bar, this is the bottom. There's a lot of features, and you may want to consider doing things like a minimum and maximum whenever you highlight cells within Excel. So let me just quickly show you that while I'm here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If I highlight that, notice I have average, count, and sum showing up. I can put minimum, and I can put maximum, and we have the minimum 1, maximum 5 now showing up there as well. So this is useful. It's something to consider throwing in there, and take a look at all the other ones as well. Okay, macro recording though is the one that we're going to want. Now, I mean, there's so many places you could go. You could go to record macro on developer, you could go view macros, record macro, but just to add that macro recording to the bottom, just puts that right in your views so that whenever you want to record a macro, you can just select that item right there. Okay, so the last thing to consider, and I like this one the best because you can do a lot with this one. Up here at the top, again, you may not have ever touched this. Up here at the top, we have things like, the quick access toolbar. And you have a lot of things that you can actually play with in here. And what we can do is show below the ribbon, and Tracy, who will be helping me out, will show you that in a second. And I've added to this speak cells, which might be a little bit hard for you to hear right now, but if we speak the cells, actually if I put like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, it'll actually speak through those particular cells. It'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a very computerized voice, but it still works. So now that I've moved it, I can again go show above ribbon, and I can say show below ribbon. But now that I have it, I can actually select more commands. And by selecting more commands, see, notice I have speak cells, you can bring over a lot of different things and from various parts of Excel. And again, commands not in the ribbon right now that, again, just so many things here that you may want to bring to that customized access toolbar. And the macros section, though, I'm just going to highlight this. I actually have the data analysis Toolpak in Excel, so it automatically brings up all these macros. So here's my regression one, right? If I wanted to run regression, I can add that. And if I didn't like that picture, even though that's kind of the picture for a macro, I can change that by modifying that and picking anything. I mean, I could pick a smiley face and say, I love doing regression, so here's my smiley face, and I hit OK. So with all of this set up, we now have our quick access toolbar here with the macros that we can run. We have our developer tab of the ribbon, and then we also have down below the macro recorder all set to record macros as we need. So I just wanted to go through that before we jumped into doing too many of these macros.